Hey guys, this is Thomas over here at NurseMoneyTalk.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about the 10 best 9-to-5 jobs for nurses. But before I get to that though, quick house cleaning things. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. On this channel I talk about all things related to nursing student, and of course nurse life. One other thing, if any of these jobs seem interesting to you, make sure you check out the job board at nursemoneytalk.com/jobs. Now let's go ahead and get started. I will preface this by saying that I am not a huge fan of 9-to-5 jobs, or 9-to-5 nursing jobs I should say. Honestly, it's probably my least favorite. Well, actually, I take that back. Night shift would be hands down my least favorite. Working 9 to 5 is probably just not one of my favorites, if I'm really being honest. Actually, after thinking about it, I really don't like night shift. But anyway, having worked pretty much just about every schedule imaginable out there, I have to admit that there are definitely some pros and cons to working 9 to 5, which I might actually make that in another video if there's enough interest out there, just kind of comparing 9 to 5 to like a 3 to 11, 11 to 7, and just about all the other shifts out there. But there are actually some good jobs out there that I think you would be interested in kind of checking out at the job board if that kind of schedule is really what you're looking for. So let's go ahead and get started. This was, I do have an article actually on this, and I'll put it on nursemoneytalk.com, and I'll put a link to that in the descriptions below. Starting off with actually number 1 is doctor's office clinics. Now I will say that actually number 2 was endoscopy clinic nursing, and number 3 was ophthalmic clinic nursing. I think it's probably easier just to roll all of that into just say clinic nursing, because I think there's clinic nursings for all sorts of specialties out there. And the beauty of clinic nursing, just speaking in general, is that you tend to be dealing with more chronic symptoms. You're usually dealing with outpatients. You can also deal with some inpatient as well. And they're typically running some schedule revolving around 9 to 5, 8 to 4, 7 to 4, something of that nature. And even like the clinic nursing, once you get into your specialty clinic, like of course like your endoscopy, like your cardiac clinics and whatnot, they can actually pay pretty well, obviously being that they're more specialty, a lot of times requiring like ACLS certifications and a whole host of other things as well. Moving on, number 4 is looking at school nursing. This one's a good one if you're looking at 9 to 5. If you're actually looking at a job that mirrors your school schedule, so let's say you are a dad or a mom or something like that, and you just want something that mirrors your child's schedule, and so you're home in the evenings, you're off during the same holidays, summer breaks, kind of like the whole nine yards, then definitely check out school nursing. A lot of this is just kind of like managing medications, a lot of teaching and whatnot, because children tend to be healthier than adults are. So in terms of just kind of like severity of illnesses, it's definitely going to be, that stress level is going to be lower than of course looking at the hospital setting. That doesn't mean that you won't have other stressors as well, especially since if you've ever worked with kids, a lot of times it is very stressful. Not even so much with dealing with the kids, but with dealing with the parents. So definitely something to keep in mind. One thing I do want to mention about the school nursing is that compared to some of the other jobs I'm actually going to mention on this list, you will find that school nursing might be one of the lower paying nursing jobs on this list. So let's go ahead and move on though to occupational health nursing. Now occupational health nursing is essentially you, instead of working in like a clinical setting at like a hospital or something like that, you're probably working for a corporation. The best example I could think of would be potentially working for like a factory, like a large factory where there's probably like dangerous substances happening, employees being around dangerous substances, dealing with, you know, potentially like workplace accidents and just kind of like stuff like that. The beauty about this job is that once again, it removes you from a lot of the stressors you might see in a workplace, like that you might see like in a hospital setting. Since there's only probably very minimal you'll be doing, anything too extreme will of course be 911, and then they'll be going to the ER for that. And so you of course will be getting like your 9 to 5 schedule, probably like holidays off and just kind of like stuff like that. So next one is home health nursing. The nice thing about home health nursing, it doesn't completely fit into the 9 to 5, but you can definitely make it fit in with some of the home health nurses that I have met before, people who have worked home health. You pretty much have like your pool of patients. You have to see them every so many times or whatever within a week, a couple weeks, couple months, whatever this scenario is. And then you kind of schedule, you work with the client to then figure out a schedule that works for both of you to then come in. It's a good schedule that gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's definitely very self-directed. And so that's probably something to keep in mind if you start getting interested in something like home health. And also, of course, you're having to actually go into the patient's home, which some of the stories I have heard has made me never really to want to do home health. Just saying. But I do know that I have met a lot of nurses who love it. Next one is probably looking at public health nursing, and this one you're probably more or less looking at working for an agency, the government. So instead of looking at the individual, you're looking more or less like a community, probably helping to develop or shape policies that affects a very broad group of people. So you can probably expect, if you're working for a local government, that it's going to be somewhere around 9 to 5. So somewhere around that. You'll probably have like holidays off, of course, your usual weekends and whatnot. So definitely one to really consider. Next one is a health writer. You can also look at it as like a freelance writer. And this one, especially in, you know, as we move on to the digital age and the rise of kind of like the gig economy, if you guys are familiar with that term, this is one where you can make as much as you want and work as much as you want. Very much self-directed. And there are freelance writers who do really well. As a nurse, with your credentials, with your experience, those experience are going to afford you premiums that somebody who doesn't have them aren't going to be able to get, just because you do have that medical background. Now, of course, the downside with this freelance writer is that self-directed, you might not make as much starting out until, well, let me take that back. You most likely won't be making that much starting out until you build like a book of clients. So definitely something to check out though, especially if you love writing. Next one is looking at a nurse educator position. So of course this could be adjunct. It could be like a full-time faculty member at a university, a college of nursing. And this is exactly what you would expect being like a professor. So you're going to be looking at the 9 to 5. Though I will mention some nursing programs do have evening classes. But of course, you're probably looking at later in the evenings. And of course, you're not going to have like be working overnight or anything like that. So this job doesn't pay as much as the clinical positions typically. But it is a job where you're doing a lot of teaching and you don't have the stress that comes with working with inpatient nursing, and just with the stress that comes with working with patients in general. Now, of course, students will bring along their own headaches to deal with, but I think part of the beauty of being like a professor, especially like at higher education or whatever, is that a lot of your students are, of course, going to be there because they want to be there, as opposed to like if you're dealing with high school or lower, where they're kind of forced to be there even if they don't want to be there. Now, obviously, I know that's not necessarily the case across the board, but just to kind of give you some things to think about. So next one is, of course, case management. So as an RN case manager, essentially you're coordinating resources to assist the patients, a lot of times with either like some chronic disabilities, to set out. So if they're inpatient and they're about to be discharged, you might be coordinating between the physician at the hospital and then whatever next level of care or whoever they're going to be discharged to under their care. And so it's a job that requires being on the phone a lot, sitting a lot. And of course, like every job on this list and every case manager I have ever met, you're looking at a 9-to-5 schedule. You get your own office, and it's a job where you're probably going to be on the phone a lot, but it doesn't require you to do as much of an interaction with other people as with as much interaction with a lot of people as opposed to some of the other jobs on this list. So I immediately think to myself, because I did make a couple videos about if introverts make good nurses and some of like the best jobs for introverts, which I'll actually link to that up here. And case management definitely made my list. So definitely check that out. That's pretty much all I have for this list. Don't forget, if any job on here is remotely interesting to you, make sure to check out the job board at nursemoneytalk.com/jobs to see what's available out there. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to find the salary information, that is on the website as well in the article, and I'll put that in the links below, and I'll catch you very soon in that next one.